Imagine walking through an ancient forest. The air is cool and still, filtered through a high canopy of green. The only sounds are the crunch of leaves under your feet and the distant call of a bird. It feels like a place of profound silence, a sanctuary of isolated stoic giants. But what if that silence is an illusion? What if, beneath your feet and all around you, the forest is alive with a constant, complex conversation you simply cannot hear? For most of human history, we've seen trees as solitary individuals. They are magnificent to be sure, but ultimately passive, competing with their neighbors for the same precious resources: sunlight, water, and space in the soil. In the grand, ruthless theater of evolution, the tallest tree gets the most light. The one with the deepest roots gets the most water. It was a simple, compelling story of survival of the fittest, a silent, slow-motion battle between immobile, isolated competitors. This view shaped our forestry, our agriculture, and our fundamental understanding of what a forest is. It turns out, this view was profoundly incomplete. We were missing the forest for the trees. To understand this, we need to go underground, into the dark, rich soil. For decades, scientists knew that the roots of most trees were intertwined with fungi. The conventional wisdom was that this was a simple, localized partnership. The tree provides the fungus with sugars it creates through photosynthesis, and in return, the fungus helps the tree's roots absorb water and nutrients. A fair trade. But in the 1990s, a forest ecologist named Suzanne Simard began to ask a radical question. What if these fungal connections weren't just between one tree and its personal fungus? What if they connected tree to tree, creating a forest-wide network? She conducted a series of elegant experiments. In one, she took 3 trees: a birch, a fir, and a cedar. She knew that birch and fir trees were often found with the same types of symbiotic fungi, while cedars were not. She enclosed each tree in a plastic bag and injected them with different types of carbon isotopes. Think of them as traceable radioactive dyes. She put one type of carbon into the birch and another into the fir. The cedar was left as a control. The hypothesis was simple. If the trees were just solitary individuals, the carbon would stay within each tree. But if they were connected, the carbon might move. After a few hours, she began scanning the trees with a Geiger counter. The carbon she had injected into the birch tree was not just in the birch. It had traveled underground and was now present in the neighboring fir tree. And the carbon from the fir had moved to the birch. The cedar, however, which did not share the same fungal partners, had received nothing. The evidence was clear. The trees were sharing resources, and they were doing it through an intricate underground network of fungal threads. This network has a name, the mycorrhizal network, or, more poetically, the Wood Wide Web. It's a subterranean internet, built not of fiber optics, but of billions upon billions of microscopic fungal filaments called hyphae. These threads fuse with tree roots, creating a shared infrastructure that can link hundreds or even thousands of trees in a single forest, sometimes across dozens of different species. Essentially, the entire forest floor is woven together by this living, biological internet. So, what does this all mean? It means trees aren't just competing, they're cooperating. They are part of a complex, adaptive system, a society, and through this network, they don't just share resources, they communicate. One of the most fundamental forms of this communication is the transfer of food. The largest and oldest trees in a forest, which scientists call mother trees, act as central hubs. With their massive canopies, they capture enormous amounts of sunlight and produce a surplus of sugar. Through the Wood Wide Web, they actively pump this sugar to younger, smaller seedlings struggling in the shade of the understory. They are nurturing the next generation. A mother tree might be connected to hundreds of other trees, and evidence suggests she can even recognize her own kin, sending them more carbon and larger network connections than she sends to seedlings of other trees. It's a level of sophistication that challenges our very definition of a plant. But the communication goes far beyond simple resource sharing. It can also act as a sophisticated defense system. Imagine a single Douglas fir tree being attacked by an insect, like a western spruce budworm. As the insects chew on its needles, the tree's internal chemistry changes. It begins producing defensive chemicals to make its foliage less palatable. But it doesn't just defend itself, it also sends a distress signal. This signal isn't a sound, it's a pulse of chemical information sent through the mycorrhizal network to its neighbors. The nearby trees, even those of a different species, receive this warning. In response, they ramp up production of their own defensive enzymes before the insects even arrive. In short, the first tree to be attacked warns the rest of the community, allowing them to raise their shields in preparation for an invasion. This is not a passive process. It is a targeted, active transfer of vital information. The forest is behaving less like a collection of individuals and more like a single, massive superorganism. When one part is wounded, the entire system responds. The network also allows trees to help each other through hardship. A tree that is dying can shunt its remaining resources, a final legacy of carbon and nutrients, into the network to be used by the healthy neighbors around it, strengthening the community as a whole. It's a system built on reciprocity and mutual survival, a stark contrast to the old narrative of relentless, individualistic competition. This discovery forces us to ask profound questions. If a tree can share, warn its neighbors, and nurture its young, what does that say about the nature of intelligence? We often associate intelligence and consciousness with brains and central nervous systems, something trees distinctly lack. But perhaps this is a failure of our own imagination. The forest network operates on principles of decentralized, swarm intelligence, similar to what we see in an ant colony or a flock of starlings. There is no single leader, no central command. Instead, intelligence is an emergent property of the entire system. Simple interactions, repeated across thousands of individuals, give rise to complex, adaptive, and intelligent group behavior. It turns out that trees have memory. A tree that has survived a drought will react more quickly and efficiently to the next one, changing its water usage and chemical balance based on past experience. This memory isn't stored in a brain, but is likely encoded in its very genetics and physiology. When you combine this ability to learn with the ability to communicate, you have a system that is far more dynamic and aware than we ever thought possible. The forest isn't just a place, it's a process. It is a slow, methodical, multi-generational consciousness, constantly sensing, reacting, and adapting. So, what does this all mean for humanity? For one, it completely reframes our relationship with the natural world. Forests are not just a resource to be managed or a commodity to be harvested log by log. They are complex societies, and when we clear-cut a forest, we are not just removing a collection of individual trees. We are devastating an ancient and intricate social network. We are silencing a conversation that has been going on for millions of years. We are destroying the mother trees, the vital hubs that hold the entire community together, and severing the connections that allow the forest to heal, defend itself, and regenerate. The evidence suggests that a forest's resilience, its ability to withstand fire, disease, and climate change, is directly linked to the health and complexity of its underground network. Diverse forests with many different species linked together are stronger and more adaptable than monoculture plantations, precisely because of the richness of their connections. This is a powerful lesson from evolution. Cooperation and diversity are not just feel-good ideals, they are fundamental strategies for long-term survival. Ultimately, the silent, hidden world of trees challenges our own sense of importance. We, as a species, pride ourselves on our communication, our social networks, our consciousness. We built the internet, a global system for sharing information, but it seems we were not the first. The Wood Wide Web has been operating for nearly 500 million years, an unbroken chain of communication and cooperation that has weathered ice ages, asteroid impacts, and the slow, steady drift of continents. The trees were talking to each other long before the first vertebrates crawled onto land, long before the dinosaurs, and long before the first flicker of human consciousness. Learning that the forest is a network of communication is like discovering a new sense. The world is suddenly richer, deeper, and more mysterious. It reminds us that we are newcomers to a very old planet, and that for all our technology and knowledge, we are only just beginning to learn the language of the life that has been here all along. The forest is not silent. We just haven't been listening.